Greetings and hello. Shalom if you're a saint. Welcome to this impromptu broadcast. I did not announce that I'll be live this evening, so those who are here, you're going to have the opportunity to hear what I have to say live. Others, I'm certain, would be willing to have this experience on a rebroadcast. If you are on YouTube, of course, it should be uploaded and you'll be able to view it. While you're here, would you kindly let me know whether you can see clearly and hear clearly? Because there's a matter that we must address that apparently has evaded the memory of many of my Guyanese countrymen and women. I bid you all shalom if you're saints, and I thank you for being here. I will always, as I would have been committed to doing, I shall always hold leaders of the country, Guyana, South America, accountable according to law. You will, until I die, or Yahweh instructs me to not speak anymore, you will be responsible for upholding what is constitutionally proper in this country. Failure to do so shall result in my voice being heard. Because there must be a generation who is aware of a voice or voices that spoke righteousness to those who are in authority. Thank you so much. So as you can see from the topic I'm speaking to, and thank you for sharing the broadcast if you've already done so, because others do not receive notifications, so I appreciate your doing this. Thank you for the feedback regarding seeing and hearing me clearly as well. Some persons are never notified, so please, if you don't mind, let them know that I'm here. So as you can see, I'm speaking to the question, where is the petition? APNU AFC or APNU is ready for Parliament? And we have to have this conversation. Of course, during the discourse, you'll understand why I'm saying what I'm saying to you. And what about fraud is fraud? Fraud is fraud. Shalom, Apostle, and all of you. Let me begin with the petition. And this broadcast should be brief, which is why it's impromptu. Now, we've had 5 months, barring the year plus of the no confidence motion that the APNU AFC coalition, led by the then David Granger, who was president, we had the embarrassment of persons not knowing mathematics in high offices in Guyana, or trying to utilize means to meander around what is constitutionally clear regarding 33 being greater than 32. It's always greater than 32 if you ask me, in reference to people. But some wise person discovered that there's nothing called a half man and add up and round up and all the rest of it. Of course, Basil Williams is happy to join. And somebody says breaking up. Shekinah. So Basil Williams was willing to join the fray. Let me know when it's clear, please, because I don't want you to miss a word I'm saying this evening. Just inform me as to when it's clear and stable, and I shall proceed. Is it better? I would not run the risk of using my mobile data here in Linden. It's just an absolute waste of time. So we'll see how this works. And I'll give it a moment. Is it good? It's intermittent. Okay, so we're waiting for the internet to be stabilized. It's not fine as yet. Okay, I'll give a few seconds or so. The hope is mine that with the change of faces in administration, there will be a change in the garbage called GT&T. GT&T begins with G and garbage begins with G. I would ask that somebody finds the fortitude to let the garbage company called GT&T regarding customer service and internet service somehow they should lose monopoly, and they should lose any form, if you ask me, of opportunity to provide service to Guyanese ever again. It is atrocious, and the parent company is garbage. Of course, I was not here to speak to this evening, but just let me know if it's stable enough for me to speak to you. You have yet another government in office, and the same garbage called GT&T is just proceeding. I've just had enough for y'all. Same for Digicel. But permit me to speak to this matter about your shalom and blessings, about this election petition. And some of you are going to say that you're of the view that it looks like an 8-bit video. Thank you, Shama. I don't understand what's happening. Let me see what's going to happen. I am afraid to try Digicel, but let's see how this goes. Just for a minute, there'll be an interrupt. Okay, so I'm trying Digicel now. Let's see how this is going to work. How would this work? I'm on Digicel. Please let me know. And if you're on YouTube, this is what I had to go through to get this video to somehow work properly, this stream. It's better? Okay, so let me speak as quickly as I can before Digicel drops as well. We all know the history of what happened in reference to the 5-month period that Guyana had to wait before David Granger decided, apparently, or was forced to, which is what is more apparent to me, concede in the face of the word fraud being repeated by his party, in the face of him saying that, thank you for the feedback, that dead people voted, Guyanese who lived overseas and were not at home voted. In the midst of Sherrod Duncan and Christopher Jones, who's now a member of Parliament, or would be, Daly, along with the other young man, they continue to say that there is clearing fraud. Mind you, their utterances would have been inconsequential to me, or insignificant, I should say. Thank you, Sham. I appreciate the feedback. What is of greatest interest to me is this. The fact that there was, of course, an illegal or extra-constitutional recount and agreed to by David Granger, which is why he should be exactly where he is, out of anything called politics. This recount, the good thing about it is that it bore an aspect in the order, remember the gazetted order that Claudette Singh could not uphold, it bore in it something called a statement of recount. And it also bore something called an observation report, which is exactly what we have to focus on this evening in this discussion. Now, if you are a crony, then there's no way that I'm addressing you. If you are a pal of the APNU FC or a pal of the PPP, then you can just bray on. I'm not speaking to you. Shalom, sis. But let me help you with to get something clear tonight, or this moment. In the observation reports, which were aired, the reading of them would have been aired for all Ghanaians to hear and see. We were all, if you were paying attention, informed in real time about what they discovered in the ballot boxes and what they discovered were not in the ballot boxes. So the recount, though it were illegal in reference to the origin of it, it should be most beneficial to the APNU AFC coalition because they don't have much work to do. You have had weeks since May up until June, I think it was. You've had weeks to gather courage and strength because these people have given you everything you need to work with. These observation reports would have been there. I'm sure your party would have been privy to it because they are reported in it every day. So you've had observation reports that stated that this ballot box had nothing inside. This ballot box had no official list of electors. This ballot box had everything missing. This one had got no proper account in reference to who would have voted and how they voted and everything else. And we know the whole report. Here's my point to you all. You also have the benefit of the chairman of the Ghana Elections Commission admitting to these irregularities, abnormalities, oversights. But she said she had no power to do anything but rule on the numbers that were presented to her. With all of this that you have on the table before you, why would we have all of this time before you go to the court with an election petition? That's the first thing. You don't have to gather evidence anymore. It was given to all of Guyana, and like the PPP cronies would say, the whole world saw. Well, the whole world saw what happened in reference to the observation report. If all of this would have been available, and you said that the PPP was involved in major fraud, according to the observation reports, what takes you so long to approach the court for relief? So the people who say the petition will be filed closer to the deadline date. That doesn't make any sense to me because it's obviously what I'm saying to you. A petition can be filed should be filed within 1 month of a declaration of an election. I think you have 28 days, I should say. But if prior to that, I have all of the evidence that I needed in reference to what the observation reports spoke to, what's the problem? Why would I have to wait for 28 days if I'm so certain that fraud is fraud? Is it possible that if an election petition would have been filed, or is filed, and the court has got the power, I would hope, to summon certain people who would have worked on election day to give an account that certain things would be said under oath that some people really don't want to be said under oath? Is that the case? Because if you're telling me that I'm saying to you again, this is not like the old days. This is the history was created regarding this recount business. This is not a time when you have to be trying to find evidence here and there. This is a case in which, good evening, Susan. This is where persons had the power and the fortune of having observation reports right before their eyes. All of these things are before you. Then Claudette Singh, Claudette Singh made a declaration. Remember, Granger conceded. A declaration had to be made for him to concede. Now, with the PPP Civic and Irfan Ali being sworn in, he cannot be sworn in without the declaration. I tell you that from day one. I don't care who was hopping and skipping. The only person who could have sworn Irfan Ali in is the Chancellor of the Judiciary. I told you that. You didn't believe me, apparently. I also told you that unless Claudette Singh, the chairman, is advised by a report from the CEO, she cannot never declare anybody president. You didn't believe that either. So now all of this is up before you on the table. They had to follow procedure. So the procedure, what is called the electoral process, has ended. It has ended. Good night. It has ended because a president has been sworn in. That's the end of the electoral process. Now that the process has ended, the law states that you have the right to file a petition. The CCJ told you all that. The appellate court told you that. The Chief Justice told you that. I'm asking you, with all the help that you got from the recount, why would you have to wait for 28 days or 25 or 26 or 17 or 18 days before you can simply say, I'm filing a petition, because you have all the evidence in the observation report? I ask you again, is it that you do not want the people who can be summoned to testify to come forward and have to speak? Secondly, or additionally, Mr. Granger said that he is out of politics. He's taken a step back from politics. So if the APNU AFC files a petition and they win, would Granger put his foot back in and say, okay, I'm back, I'll be president again? And some of you had enough to say that I support APNU AFC. I have never been associated with this idiocy. Ever since I came to the knowledge of the truth, I can never, and I shall never, at any time in my life, be a part of anything that resembles the chaos that surrounds this political entity called APNU AFC. Especially the leader called David Granger. Since he's out of politics, some of you don't understand what's happening here. He's taken a step back. He's not headed to Parliament. So if APNU AFC manages to file a petition, which I doubt they would, but if they do, fine, and they are to win this petition within 2 months, the court decides, okay, we're going to be expeditious in what we do here, so we're going to expedite this whole process, and it'll be quick. What happens? Would Granger put his toe back and say he's now ready to be a leader again? Or is his action of, okay, saying he's withdrawing from the political front line an announcement to all you who still have hope that they'll find no petition whatsoever? So somebody said a petition was filed on Monday. If the petition was filed on Monday and Granger said he's stepping away from politics, what sense does it make? Because obviously I haven't done my question yet. Would he be stepping back into politics if the court says, okay, then you've won? Can any one of you envision, given the weak nature of David Granger, can you envision what Ghana would look like if any court in this country or the CCJ says that David Granger deserves to be president of this country? He's already displayed that he's afraid of every single thing that moves. He's caused this country to be disrespected by diplomats who should have been kicked out. The ABCE, DFG clowns. If he could not deal with these people who insulted us as Guyanese, who just spat on our constitution, if you ask me, they didn't care about it. And he could not be man enough to stand up to speak to these people and say, "You out of Guyana." Who in their right mind would receive him now when he has this degree of fear? He has told you all he's finished with politics. And you still want a petition to be filed? For what? When the leader cannot even step up and say he's going to deal with it now? So Michael Kingston is saying if the coalition won the petition, it's fresh elections. You still haven't got my point. Fresh elections has to have a presidential candidate, sir. Would Granger then say, because there's fresh election, I'm coming back into politics? All you simply missed my question. I've asked you a very simple question. He said he's stepping away from it and giving other people a chance to do that. Now on to the second point, since obviously you don't want to address the first one. There is now a squabble in APNU. And the squabble is about who should be in Parliament. Now let me address this part, or this issue. I have no interest whatsoever. I have no interest whatsoever in your APNU AFC business. I'm addressing you because of all you said, and I'm false and fraud and whatever else it is. I'll address you tonight. If you are telling me that for 5 months or so, your voices were blaring and you were loud in saying fraud is fraud, we are not accepting anything, PPP Civic, you cheated, you rigged the election, and you said all of that, and you kept this mantra, fraud is fraud. Yet, you're telling me that David Granger could compile a group or a list and arrange for people to go to Parliament with people who are illegitimate according to his own policy. You don't even have the fortitude to say we're not even going to Parliament with y'all, because we're not going to be there with an illegitimate government that had dead people voting. That's what you said. That had persons who were overseas voting. That's what you said. You APNU FC people. That had people who were fraudulent in reference to even electoral officers. How are you now telling me, as a Guyanese person, that a government that you said was fraudulently elected, you're willing to go to Parliament with them? So you're willing to be called opposition in the midst of what you said fraud is fraud? And valid votes must count, and only valid votes must count, but now you're going to Parliament and fighting as to who should go to Parliament? You are a disgrace. So you file an election petition while you're in Parliament, and then if you win the election petition, you head back to a fresh election. With whom? Because some of y'all are a bit slow on this broadcast tonight. With whom? If you have to have a fresh election, I say to you again, there has to be a presidential candidate. Named by whom? The challenge in the petition is not that we want a new candidate. The challenge is David Granger at the time of election was presidential candidate, and there was a problem. If an Ali was presidential candidate, there was a problem. Now we have to have a new election of the two candidates, unless you want to change some law. It's too late for y'all to get me started, man. I didn't come in to get started like this. So please don't, this is not the other night for you to type like a fool, please. Who is the new opposition leader? And for you to have an opposition leader, it means you've accepted fraudulent results, according to your party. In order for APNU AFC to consider themselves opposition, it means that they've accepted defeat at the hand of a fraudulent process. So how are you talking to me about opposition leader? Was Jagio told anything about opposition? Throughout the 5-month period, did you ever hear Jagio tell you anything that he's going to be opposition? And I don't support PP Civic either. I told you that from the beginning, but some are a bit sluggish in your thinking, so I have to repeat it often. Now, Jacqueline Mariah Jordan has something to say on my page. This rhetoric is disturbing and non-productive, yet you're on my page. Lack of vision and substance. Clearly this was a regime change, kicking diplomats out of Guyana, pure rhetoric. So why are you here? And what nonsense are you saying? Rhetoric? Regime change? If it's a regime change, why are they headed to Parliament as an opposition? All of you are speaking quickly to defeat your own party if you're part of it. Diplomats should have been kicked out because they violated Vienna treaties of laws. It's simple. There's no secret here, because I've been saying it. And according to the Vienna Convention, any diplomat can be expelled without explanation. That is a treaty that all nations in the UN have agreed to. So let me speak to the second aspect of it. If at any time as a Guyanese person, I'm told that a group of people would have been involved in excessive fraud regarding election, how can you then tell me that you are prepared to accept that and return to Parliament under those circumstances? And I ask you again, did you for 5 months ever hear Brother Jagdeo say that he's going to Parliament to accept anything called opposition? He said plainly he's not going there. Now, he was leader of the opposition. He wasn't president. And he cannot be president according to law, but he can be a de facto president. And if the person who was in opposition says, I am not going back to Parliament with you because Irfan Ali will be recognized as president, he said, I don't care what Claudette Singh says, I don't care what GCOM says, Irfan Ali shall be recognized as president. That's Jagdeo talking to you all now. And he wasn't president. You have David Granger in the seat of president, who accepts being railroaded and thrown out, in essence, according to what you all are saying. And still he's saying, I'm going to prepare a list of 31 people, and it will be a youthful list to return to Parliament. And some of you on this broadcast are yet to comprehend anything I've just said to you, because what you're saying to me is that a fraudulent process according to your leader's declaration is acceptable. And you expect Guyana to be changed? How would Guyana change? How can Guyana ever change if APNU FC refuses to create history by saying we refuse to take any seat in Parliament until this process is addressed properly? No. Could it be? Could it be, like I said to you all, that both people have decided from the beginning that regardless of what is honest and truthful, we shall accept even a fraudulent process and say we winners? And that's exactly what we have for leaders in Guyana. If some of you cannot see that this is a contribution to development of a country, you are a bit shallow. Because what I'm speaking to here is that we should not move forward with the air or the cloak of fraud over anything called Guyanese livelihood and Guyanese well-being. It has to stop. It is either David Granger comes out and says, listen, I have accepted that this process was not fraudulent. I accept that we were trying to deceive Guyanese people, and so I apologize. But he's not man enough to do that. Or he can say that all that the observation reports spoke to, we call that a lie too. Let PPP win. He can't do that either. So as long as you have what is called an observation report with all of those evidences on it, I am saying to the Guyanese, it has to be dealt with. That's what I'm saying to you. There's no sweeping this under the rug here. There was gross electoral fraud. It has to be dealt with. Probably I need to get to the point for Sam Elton as I'm saying to you. I am asking as a Guyanese person, as a citizen with interest in the law of this country, if this past election was as fraudulent as the observation reports would have stated, it should be dealt with as soon as possible. Not swept under the rug and we go to Parliament and fuss about everything else and act as if this was not before us. My children, I've said it to you for almost 5 months, my generation shall not inherit weakness from me. Maybe you could sit and let your children accept it, but mine would always hear my voice. Even in the grave, there's now technology for them to hear their father speaking publicly and saying that he is not going to be a Guyanese who accept anything called wickedness from leadership. How can you tell me for 5 months that there was gross electoral fraud and then suddenly you accept and you head to Parliament? I could tell you why, because you're all well aware that anyone who sits in Parliament is paid. Jacqueline Mariah Jordan, this is the last time I'll speak to you. If you're going to be on my page saying that I did not address or I'm unaware of the level of corruption in the electoral process, I guess you have not watched one of my broadcasts. So I would not even pay attention to you because you obviously just joined this broadcast or just became aware of who I am. Maybe somebody could inform Jacqueline as to whom I is speaking here because she's not aware. I have spoken to the level of corruption in this country beyond what most of you have ever tried to do. And I shall repeat for your sake, because obviously I haven't heard me speak before, so I can excuse you for that. The fact that the APNU AFC coalition and the PPP Civic were both prepared to accept results with all of this around it tells me that they're both corrupt and not worthy of any trust. Bottom line, because with all the fraud is fraud talk, I told you all that if ever Claudette Singh had said Lowenfield's second, third, or fourth report is acceptable, Granger would have accepted it. All the fraud is fraud talk, Granger would have accepted a fraudulent, according to his own confession, declaration and make him president. See, I don't come to me with that foolishness. You are no different. The only issue is that he was not favored in a fraudulent process. And all these politicians who are headed to Parliament in the opposition will be paid as members of the opposition. And there was an increase in 2015, so they'll be benefiting too. Michael Kingston, I may answer your question if it's worthy of that. Michael Kingston said, I want to ask you a question. If the coalition doesn't go to Parliament, wouldn't it prevent the PPP moving forward? They have majority. I say to you again, sir, with the extent of fraud that is described in the observation report and the outcry of fraud from the APNU FC, they should never go to Parliament. They should create history, because Barrett Jagdeo had all intention of making history again. He said to you all in your faces, maybe you didn't hear him, that he is not accepting any declaration from GCOM unless it is Irfan Ali winning. If GCOM say Granger is president, Jagdeo said publicly, he will say Irfan Ali is president and treat him as president. That was said to all y'all, and none of you could have dealt with him. That is a treasonous statement, and you couldn't deal with it. So if he was prepared to create history, I'm asking you, what makes Granger so weak that he has to bow and kowtow and say, okay then, I'm now going to go to Parliament. Although the process is so fraudulent, although we have all of this fraud before us, I will go to Parliament. Are you people out of your minds or what? Do you understand what you come to debate here? How can you be ready for Parliament when you said plainly, no, Jagdeo cannot say what he wants. He did what he wanted, because none of you could stop him. None of you could have stopped him. He even caused the Constitution to be derailed, and none of you could stop him. So he cannot just say what he wants. According to your, if you're part of APNU FC, he could do what he wants, because he did it to y'all. And this is where my exchange with you will end. I'm saying to you, in no uncertain terms, if you are to tell me, because I don't deal with politics in the context of some of you, if you are telling me that this entire electoral process was rife with fraud, glaring fraud, and all the rest of it, and you're saying that dead people voted, I told you all before, where you want to come and talk the foolishness, fine. You want to say dead people voted, say all of that. I'm saying to you, in spite of all of that you said, you are now turning around to say you headed to Parliament. Who are you trying to fool? If you are worth your salt, and if honesty and integrity means so much to you, you would never go to Parliament with anybody who that you are so certain is involved in electoral fraud to this extent. Never. Never. But you all can't help it. The reason why you cannot help it, because you want your opposition leader members will all be paid as members of the opposition. And mind you that your leader of the opposition shall receive Jagdeo's salary, the option he had, whether he would be paid as a former president or leader of the opposition. So I want you to understand that although David Granger made a mockery of Ghana's entire electoral process by his indecisiveness and weakness, he is still paid fully the pension of a president, which is 1.5 plus million Ghana dollars per month. And if PP decides to increase it, he gets more money, regardless of what he did. He receives a 1.5 plus million dollars in pension. So does Nagamutu as a prime minister. The members of parliament, the former ministers, they also get their money on the back of taxpayers. And some of you are busy talking about, oh, you shouldn't talk APNU FC business in public. I'm not a part of APNU FC. I talk about y'all anywhere. There's no lodge. I am not a member of any one of your parties. I talk about you because my hands are clean. So is my conscience. But this is a disgrace for you to tell me all these months that you have all this evidence, and it was there. Claudia Singh admitted it is there, and yet you want to go to parliament, and taxpayers must pay you all this money, and nobody have, and you don't have a problem with that. I have an issue with it. I have a serious issue with the way leaders of this country function, because you don't understand that these people are walking at the backs of taxpayers, and you all are happy for it to happen. I'm not happy for it to happen. I have a problem with anybody in this country who's going to receive exactly $200,000 just as a member of parliament. This is your payday, huh? We're teaching this country carries home $200,000+ a month and then get duty-free allowance and all that. Which one? Name one. You name one regular classroom teacher who benefits like members of parliament. Name them. Your ministers in government, you realize the PPP is advertising, oh, the APNU pay this one and pay that one and pay that one. They advertise what everybody was getting, but they're not saying what they're getting now. I'm waiting for the PPP Civic to say exactly what they're paying their ministers since Granger was so bad. But as it is, a minister in the cabinet is going to earn 800,000+ Guyana dollars, plus tax-free, tax exemption for vehicles, on the back of taxpayers. And y'all are here defending a weak leader in David Granger. And if you ask me, he's a vindictive leader. Because since you want to go there, I'll go there with you. The person who spoke more than Granger, who was sought to speak more than Granger, Trinidad News Agency sought him out to speak in the person of Aubrey Norton. And he spoke with understanding, he spoke with passion, he spoke with courage, none of which Granger did. He was on the front line speaking to this matter, and Granger has the nerve to leave him off of your parliamentary list. And you don't even understand that. Trinidad never asked to talk to Granger. The media. Aubrey Norton was interviewed by many media agencies. And he spoke with far more courage than Granger. And now Granger decides that Aubrey Norton is unfit. I have an interest in your party, but I'm saying to you from what I've seen, from what I have observed, courage is necessary to lead anybody. Courage is necessary for leading anyone. Weaklings don't lead me. That's why I told y'all I would never join the APNU, never join PPP Civic, none of y'all. Worse the APNU. I have never been capable of being led by weak people. There's no way that David Granger could lead me as any leader in any party. Never. When you have got these Americans and Europeans insulting me as a Guyanese, Granger could lead me? It may sound strange to you coming from me, but Forrest Bonham could lead me any day of the week because he had courage. Never David Granger. At least have courage. Even if you're doing something wrong, have courage as a man. There should be nothing called an opposition in Parliament if your report, according to you APNU people, is what it is. You cannot accept that you are going to sit as opposition in the face of what you said was glaring fraud. Any Guyanese could accept it. You realize by now that none of your opinions matter to me, so I don't think you could talk me out of what I'm saying to you. I'm not here on this broadcast to seek your opinion as to whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong. If it's a fact-checking, yes, but don't think that your thoughts matter to me so much that I have to bow and acquiesce to what you say. If I have to stand alone and tell you, I stand alone and tell you that given what the APNU AFC and David Granger said about these elections, there should be nothing called opposition. They should refuse to go to Parliament until this matter is resolved because it is glaring fraud, according to them. But I say to you again, when these young people realize that you're able to earn $200,000+, really? You sit in Parliament and you get $250,000, $260,000. Whenever you have to travel, your allowances are paid. Some of y'all don't understand that. Those who live out of town, they have accommodation allowance and all of that. You, the taxpayers, pay it. They have the hefty breakfast. They have lunch. If they budget debates, oh, they eat 3, 4, 5 times a day. You and I pay it. Why are you telling me about opposition? You are corrupt. If you go to Parliament, you are equally corrupt as the people you said were corrupt, because you are accepting a corrupt process. If you head to Parliament, you are equally corrupt, because you are participating in a process. Now the completion of it, because you have to submit your names to Low and Field, and then he has to give the distribution and say, okay, then you're accepted as well. So I'm telling you straight, if APNU AFC accepts opposition role in the parliament, you are equally corrupt as the people you say are corrupt, because you are accepting a process and you benefit from it. You are benefiting financially from fraud. Guyana's history has to be rewritten by those who have the courage to ensure it is. That is the crux of the matter. Guyana's electoral history, Guyana's political history has to be rewritten by those with the courage to see it rewritten. You imagine you are being bought. You're being paid for. Which generation will inherit some degree of decency in this country to say we are not accepting this foolishness? Y'all are wimps. You're congratulating people who are now accepting that what they said fraud is now beneficial to them. Why congratulate them? Christopher Jones was on the air every day, just about, saying fraud is fraud, and now he's benefiting from a fraudulent process? Y'all don't get the point yet, huh? Those of you ask me what happens if they don't go to Parliament, many things can happen, and I guess you will get the point. Do you know why people said they wouldn't go to Parliament? Because they understand the power of saying we're not going anywhere. According to the Constitution, they requires a 2/3 majority for many things to happen in Parliament. So if you want us to move forward as a country, let us deal with that which is lawful, which is addressing all this fraud you had. Now what you all want to do is avoid dealing with the fraud and benefit from the money. That's what leaders of this country want. I heard, this one will go to jail, that one will go to jail, the other one will go to jail. Now, all the dust settles is we will go to Parliament. And Ghanaians have an issue with that. This entire parliamentary arrangement is a disgrace on the side of the APNU AFC, because you kept telling us fraud is fraud, and you kept telling us that it was glaring fraud, and you kept telling us that dead people voted, and you kept telling us that people who were overseas voted, you kept telling us that persons had no ID voted, you kept telling us that persons were given more ballots than they were people living in the area. You told us all of that. and now you're going to Parliament to receive money. Who should respect y'all? Who? If you are prepared to benefit from a fraudulent process, you are a fraud. How can Guyana go forward? By some of you developing what I have shown you, which is courage to tell the truth. And courage to say, we are not interested in anything called Parliament until you all tell us what happened in this election for real. We don't want any sham investigation here. Too much has happened. Taxpayers again spent billions of dollars. The government didn't spend it. It came from us. Billions of dollars on 2 processes. The initial election and the recount. Together, it's billions of dollars that were spent. And you telling me that they could now just, yes, kumbaya, let's sing and dance together, it's all right. Let's go to Parliament and fuss like clowns and tap on the desk and holler, and we still get paid. That's what y'all want? Is that what you want? Guyana cannot move forward, because if you move forward in the face of such glaring fraud that even Claudette Singh admitted to, then it's obvious that you're prepared to move forward as a corrupt nation. Some of y'all can't get it through your head yet. You don't move forward in what's fraudulent. Because let me test some of y'all honesty tonight. If you go to the bank, the simple bank, if you go to a bank and you have a check in your name, or it should be in your name, and 1 or 2 letters of your name is misspelled, is or are misspelled, tell the truth. Will the bank proceed with that transaction without correcting the glaring issue? Come here, I could tell the truth before I go to bed. Let me hear if you could be honest. If we ain't going to Parliament yet. We go into a simple transaction at a bank in Guyana. You go to the bank to uplift some money or to cash a check. 1 letter or 2 letters of your name would have been misspelled. Can you tell me if the bank will proceed with that, since it could be potential fraud? Tell me the truth. Thank you, Laverne, because some of them can't be honest. Good. So in banking, the bank would not proceed with a transaction that is not legitimate. Good. If you want to travel, you go to the airport, and your passport just has 1 letter of your name that's wrong, or it's out by a day or 2. Would they let you travel? No, it has to have 6-month validity and before you could travel. Or say, no, you can't travel here, because you're permitting immigration fraud if you let you do so. So somehow in our wider society, fraud is not permitted, or potential fraud, though your intentions are clear. It cannot be permitted. They have to stop the process. You have to fix the issue, then you move forward. Let's go to elections then. In elections in Guyana, it's unique. It's amazing. That's how corrupt some of you are. Because according to your reasoning, fraud is fraud. Fraud is fraud. Oh, you rigged the election. But what do? We just move on with the process. Those of you who agree with that, you are moronic and you are evil, you're corrupt, you're wicked. That's exactly why this country is where it is. You support a corrupt society. I told you all, don't come on my page thinking that you'll have any wonderful humoring from me. I don't respect corrupt minds. If you are willing to accept a corrupt process, you are corrupt and you're wicked. You should repent because you're evil. So don't come to me with your garbage. You cannot get $1 from Western Union or MoneyGram, any money transaction, if 1 digit is out of place because it's potential fraud. Oh, but you could go to Parliament on a fraudulent process. You are a disgrace if you accept that. I would rather not go to Parliament. And I'll tell them I'm not going because you are fraudulent in your conduct. When this process ends, I would rather Ghana not have Parliament for 5 years. That's my policy, but y'all can't have the kind of courage because you're wicked. You who support it, you are evil. You don't brush fraud under the rug, you deal with fraud. You do not brush fraud under the rug. You deal with fraud. You expose it and you address it. You don't run around it. You deal with it. I find great interest in politicians telling me about how many fraudulent activities have occurred over 5 years without talking about what occurred over the past 5 months. Everybody has suddenly become so integral and so honest and upright that they want to expose fraud from some previous government, but you can't expose it up on March the 2nd. Expose it all. I'm asking this government as they sit to expose all. Don't wait for 2 months to do it. Expose all that was done at election, and if you ask me, I told you before, those who are guilty of electoral fraud should be put before a firing squad. All you upright ones scared to say that as well from PPP Civic. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are, from APNU, FC, whichever party you're from. If you are going to be fraudulent in your conduct in elections, you should be killed. By the law, you should be hung from a tree. Don't tell me foolishness that you have said there is fraud. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. If APNU AFC cannot file an election petition, it means they're admitting that the accusations were wrong. And they're admitting that the observation reports were also wrong. They're admitting then that there is an entire fiasco here that was just a sham. If you file a petition, then you have to tell me why you were in Parliament with the petition filed. It means I have confidence in your petition. So you are in a political dilemma. Now you're dancing around it. But I wouldn't let you dance around this. And I'm asking the PPP Civic Administration to not allow 1 year to go by and think that I'm going to forget about this. You said that Mingo committed fraud. You said that all these people, Low and Philon, committed fraud. You said that all who were involved in fraud, and Timothy Jonas, well, he's from Anug, he said that he was able to chart the entire process of the fraud. Jonas, an attorney, had the nerve to say he understood just what happened. That Mingo and Lowenfield had this strategy and they had all these different electoral workers involved. Good. Well, if you all got all that evidence, they have to go to court. And they must be tried for electoral fraud, and if you ask me, for treason. You wouldn't say all these things for all these months before and when elections are over. Somebody's sworn in, you accept, okay, right, yes, we can move forward now. No, Guyana doesn't move forward with fraud, because in the bank you don't move forward in fraud. At the airport you don't move forward in fraud. So why you want to move forward in fraud now? There's no moving forward for me, I tell you that already. There is no moving forward for me after this electoral process. Too much has happened for me to move forward as if nothing happened. Y'all can move forward, but not me. Not me. Not until this process has been proven to be what it is. You move forward. The fact that David Granger is stepping away from politics, given what he created, is enough for me to know that APNU FC knows exactly what happened to them. And it's a disgrace, I say again, from a human perspective, from me and other Guyanese to see, Aubrey Norton, the most vocal in reference to authority, though he was not in government. And Granger decides that the man who is a political scientist by qualification is not qualified to sit in Parliament. He could put those who have got absolutely no sense regarding political activities. They're fit. They are qualified. I'm trying to figure out when in Guyana's history, maybe some of y'all could help me. I cannot recall that. But when have we ever had a chairman of a party not sit in Parliament? I can't recall it happening. So maybe you can help me, please. When have we ever had a chairman? Well, the PPC has got what they call a general secretary or leader, whatever Jaglio was. But when have we ever had the leader of a political party out of Parliament? Please help me. Some historian can help me with that. I don't know about it, but y'all could help me. Because Granger created history in a lot of ways for Guyana. When have you ever had, since all you people think that he's so, oh, this guy, I was so wrong for talking against Granger. Now his own people decided, okay, I'm not that wrong. Correct. Good. When have we ever had in either side the leader of a political party like PNC or PPP not sit in Parliament? When did that ever happen? I'm trying to figure out when. Thank you, Tandy. Right. I bid you shalom by reminding you that there is no moving forward in my book. 700,000 Guyanese can move forward if they want to. But for me, politicians in this era, for as long as there's social platforms available, you're not going to have just an easy ride doing that which is totally detrimental to the well-being of society. I'm going to call you out. I'm going to speak to it with utmost passion. And let some mind with some degree of honesty and integrity realize that you're being played, or these people have no respect for you. Because some of you have to hear it to understand it. They have no regard for you as people, and you're fighting for them all the time, on either side. If you have all, I reiterate as I close, if you have all this information and evidence from the recount that you said you have, that you are speaking to every day in your news report, listen to me. You don't need 3 weeks to file a petition then, because you have all the evidence you need. You don't need more time. That's all I'm saying to you. And if, according to your statement, APNU FC, and Granger's statement, that you would have had so much evidence about fraud, and fraud is fraud, then there is no way that you should go to Parliament under such fraudulent and glaringly fraudulent activities. If you go to Parliament, I say to you again, you are a participant and a beneficiary of fraud. You're a participant in it, and you're a beneficiary of it. And in either way, you are equally guilty. Shouldn't happen. If you say fraud is fraud, then do not benefit from fraud. Don't take the people $250,000 Ghana plus benefits from fraud. You all have more integrity than that. Come on up, NFC. Don't go to Parliament and accept money. Not under these circumstances. No, you have more integrity. Remember, you campaign on integrity? Well, it shows that you have integrity then. And don't accept the money because you have integrity. Tell them you don't want anything from them because it's a fraudulent process and it's a fraudulent government. You're fighting to be leader of opposition. How can you fight to be leader of the opposition if you were booted out fraudulently? I appreciate the moment you spent with me. I thank you all for being here. And as I said, I've taken note of some of the comments that you've made, and I will certainly give it great consideration. But I'm not going to sit here quietly and hope that one of you like me or agree with me. That's not going to happen. I have no interest in that. I shall speak the truth, not Phyllis Jordan's truth. Because there's a generation in this nation that must not raise itself as the older ones. I appreciate your time. Thank you for spending this moment with me. If you do not mind, would you be kind enough to share the broadcast with someone who is not normally on my page? Those of you who normally follow me know why I ask you to do so. Because Facebook does not give people notification when it comes to me and some other people. So, please, be kind enough to do so. All right? Thank you so much. Shalom and blessings to you, saints. Goodbye. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.